All right, it's a Monday night. We know the weather isn't great, so where are you, callers? Wide open? Excuse me. Give us a call, 737-PLUS. That's 737-7587. We want to hear from you. Maybe you know of a foster family. You've heard from them about the challenges we have faced here in Tennessee. So now we're going to get into News Channel 5 investigation into the Department of Children's Services, and not finger-pointing blame here, but just letting you know what the reality is and why a group like Nashville Angels, our guest tonight, Amanda Arthur, is the executive director. Excuse me, we were just talking about allergies. So our investigates, Amanda, I don't know if you saw this, but just talked to some foster parents who are very, very concerned and spoke out. And we know, having reported this for several years, that there have been issues. There have been issues with the budgeting. Just need more money because they need more caseworkers. These caseworkers go out and help with these kids, place them into foster homes, keep in contact with the family. There's a lot going on, a lot of paperwork, that the families need this assistance. Some of these families just say, you know, not only can they're not hearing from caseworkers, but a lot of them, she said, one parent said, there are too many who have quit, they're overloaded, and one of her foster kids had 5 different caseworkers in a span of 18 months. So I know this is an issue, and DCS did an audit just 2020, kind of look over what's going wrong. And again, the high caseloads, they just don't have enough case managers, case workers. They continue to work on hiring more, to put more money in the budget. But just for an example, I think right now they're at least short 400 or 500 employees. Most of those are case managers. So now you have case managers who have more than the average of 20 cases at a time, which is what the state law is supposed to be. Average, that's another word, but that's the average it's supposed to be, and they have much more. And you know, the kids in turn and the families are hurting.
Yeah, I mean, I know what that's like. I've never worked for a state agency. I've worked for nonprofit agencies where I was a social worker working with kids and families. And there were times where I had 100 kids in a month that I had to see and touch base with.
Wow.
You know, to see 5 days and 4 weeks, that's 20 days to see 100 kids at school or home, and to touch base with them. Like, it's hard. And I think people underestimate that. It's not just making a quick phone call or popping in and popping out. And you know, sometimes a social worker may work here and have a child in Knoxville that's placed out there.
Mm-hmm.
I had a kid on my case working in the community mental health where he lived here in a foster home, but his home county was in Knoxville. And there were times we didn't hear from him. He didn't drive to Nashville once a month. He would only see him when the little one would go to Knoxville for court.
Wow.
Like I said, I never worked in the state. I don't know what their rules are when it comes to touch base with and whatnot. I know what ours were. They were pretty similar. Of, you know, eyes on them as often as possible, like within a.
And you know, to be fair, I mentioned the audit that DCS came out with, and a concerted effort by many leaders to get to the bottom of it, to try to, you know, hire more caseworkers, listen, what can we do to make the system better? But then we hit the pandemic, and almost every industry faced this, of people changing careers, leaving, and that's what's happened. They just have so much turnover. We have a similar problem with the Department of Corrections, with corrections officers in our facilities. It's very, very hard to keep them there. So here comes Nashville Angels, at least to try to help out a little bit. I know your group does not get involved with, here's a specialist who can help you with all that paperwork. That is the state's area of expertise, but it still means a lot for you to be able to come in and show them, hey, someone's here for you, right?
Yeah, I think it's very much a thing and a common theme that I always hear. Like, it just gives them something to say. Someone sees me and someone hears me and someone cares about what I have to say, and someone cares about our needs. And that's the thing. The state doesn't have the bandwidth or the capacity normally, especially now, to go the extra mile, to give the extra time and give the extra support, where our volunteers have that time to give, where they go and listen to a mom talk for an hour because she hasn't had an adult conversation in a week because, she's a single mom with a bunch of kids.
Right. Sit down, have a cup of coffee, and just let them let it go, vent for a little bit. So
absolutely.
Do any of your volunteers or are you in touch with caseworkers, with these families at all?
We get some referrals from caseworkers who might hear about us through their church or through a business or hear about us on social media, and they'll reach out and give us a referral. A lot of our services are family direct care based. So unless there's a problem where the family needs help with advocacy for something they need in their home, we don't usually get involved with their state workers. We work probably more with if they're with an agency, with their workers. But I mean, I have a foster parent right now who's a single mom, and she has a child who came from Ecuador and is placed here because where her mom brought her. Now she's living in a foster home, but now she doesn't qualify for the insurance, and the state has to pay for it. But then the dentist is saying, well, we haven't received a payment. She can't come back here until we receive a payment. And now it's up to this foster mom to make sure the state's doing their job to make sure she can get the medical care that she needs. And that's something else that shouldn't fall back on the foster mom. Yeah,
it's just a lot. And I should say, when we talk about these caseworkers, there are so many out there trying hard. It's a calling, but there's so much burnout. The Tennessee Tribune did a whole series on DCS about a year or two ago. I just printed off some, so I want to give them credit for what I'm reading. But one case manager or one expert here was saying what a case manager has to learn. So even hiring new caseworkers, which is what we need, it's not like throw them right in, because they say it's a steep learning curve. People may not realize this. The job deals with victims, their families. It involves school officials, law enforcement, court liaisons, DCS lawyers, other attorneys, counselors, and judges. In short, there's a lot to learn. It takes dedication and experience to rescue children from dysfunctional families, and sometimes there are no good solutions. That's hard to read, but again, it's a group like yours and others who are watching can say, all right, maybe I can't affect that other than writing to my state lawmakers that I'm concerned, but what can I do? And something as simple as a love box, right?
Yeah, we started a campaign a couple years ago, the hashtag It Takes a Nash Village, because we were talking about a campaign we wanted to start to kind of help bring awareness to foster care and what it needs. And we were kind of just talking about, and I had mentioned, I always heard growing up, like, it takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. And why are we not implementing that for our kids in foster care too? Right. And so we kind of wanted to reinvent that, and especially to make it Nashville based. Like, it does take a village to do this. And these parents who are taking in more kids also need that village. And so I have parents tell me all the time, oh, well, we told the church that we got this child, and they were really excited and helped us out for 2 weeks. And then it was kind of just like it was normal life again, even though it wasn't normal life for us. Yeah. And, what happens is, too, not only do you get the DCS caseworkers burning out, but you're going to get foster families burning out and not wanting to continue with the program. So that's important. All right, hold right there, because we do have a caller, and I don't want her to wait much longer. Joy, how are you? Joy, are you there? Joy? I'm going to put Joy on hold, because Joy may have just stepped away from the phone. Hopefully Joy will come back. Maybe has it on the TV and will come back. So we'll try to get there. 737+ is the number if you'd like to call in. Give us your thoughts, viewers. What do you think about DCS right now? Obviously, one of the easiest answers is more money. Let's flood some money into the budget. That's great, but obviously there are some systemic issues here with helping our foster families and just helping these kids. And it's another thing people may forget, Amanda, that these kids, some of them are coming from some seriously traumatic experiences and traumatic environments. There's physical abuse and sexual abuse, a huge problem with drugs, with parents addicted to drugs and fentanyl. So this stability and then the support from the outside is just so important for these kids. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier today, of that none of these kids are in this situation by any fault of their own.
Yeah.
And so we need to step up and take care of these kids. I often hear, oh, well, those kids need this, those kids need that. Well, when the reality is, those kids belong to us as the community, and it's our job to step up and take care of them.
Yeah. What's your, now that we, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that the pandemic is hopefully in the rearview mirror, things are kind of getting back, there's kind of a renewed energy. What are your goals here in this year, the next few years? Obviously, you want to grow and help more people.
Yeah, so our goal is to get our events set back up again, to be able to, because those events not only allow us to raise money, but allows us to raise more awareness to people who don't know what we do or don't know a lot about foster care. But ultimately, the more money we bring in, the more staff we can hire, the more staff we hire, the more kids we can serve.
Right.
So our goal this year is to up our monthly matches from 7 to 30 or 35, and to have about 10 of our mentees and mentors matched. So we would have about 45 cases overall for the year, and then to continue growing exponentially as we can handle bandwidth. We have wait lists for a reason. We don't want to take on more than we can chew, so that these kids don't, have another systemic gap.
That's a smart, smart.
We just want to make sure that, they've fallen through so many cracks already. We want to make sure that we serve them well, even if that means having them hold off to receive boxes from us without the group quite yet. We try to make that happen. And so we want to make sure that we love them well, encourage them, and support them well, so that way they don't just find yet another program or another system that has failed them.
Wow, that's so hugely important. And some people kind of really jump ahead, without thinking of that, the importance of that. All right, we do have our caller back. Real quick, what's your website where people can reach out?
www.nashvilleangels.org.
Easy. All right, and we'll go over that again before the end of the program tonight. All right, now we're going to go back. I believe it's Joyce, not Joy. Are you there?
Yeah, this is Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. Welcome. What's on your mind?
Well, I am a 30-year foster parent.
Thank you. Awesome.
I've been doing it for 30 years, and I've had numerous kids from different counties. And I just want to tell the young lady that I appreciate what she's doing for the foster families and ensuring that the kids are happy. I don't use the word foster because I don't like to put a label on kids and leave them in my home.
Right.
I'm the one that takes the girls that come with babies. And so I've had this is one of my 30th year doing it. And I find it a joy doing it. But the support is very much needed within the parents, the foster parent, the parents, and DCS, and I work for Omnivision.
Right. Joyce, what has your experience been? What are your concerns about DCS and the caseworker challenge that they're having?
My biggest concern is that when a child, I've held my last kids, 2 or 3, were like 17, 6 months into turning 18, and they don't know what the next move is going to be once they turn 18.
Right, because then they age out of the system.
They got the system, and they have offers to do extension of foster care for kids that's aging out of system, but most kids don't want to do the extension of foster care because they've been dealing with DCS and different people all their young life. So if they get 18, they just ready to venture out on their own. But then you give them 6, 7 months, and they're right back.
Yeah, it's tough. It is tough. But you're saying, as a foster, you're called to do this. You love it. You want to give of yourself and welcome. But, a group like this, and there are, like she mentioned, other nonprofits who help out. But just that little bit of support, it means a lot to you, doesn't it? And the kids.
It means a lot because I had 3 kids of my own. They're all adults. My 2 girls became foster parents as well. And then I adopted 2. My very first 2, I was not being a foster parent, but I came in contact with these 2 kids. They were 6 and 8.
And you fell in love with them?
They were 12 and 14 before they adopted and got through court. But things have changed now since the pandemic has come along. We don't get to meet to see who each other are, who the foster parents are. DCS has caseloads, 20 and 30 with one person. And so, you have to have a support system in order to do this. You just can't do it by yourself.
Yeah. Well,
even just a little time away, I always get a support system within my church.
that's awesome. Joyce, thanks for your call, and thank you for what you've done. I mean, think of how positively you've impacted so many kids over these years.
And I still have contact with normally all my kids that came through my home. I still have contact with them.
I'm sure.
Phone,
Yeah, I'm sure they do, because you're a positive influence and a positive light in their lives. But I know you're receiving the same from them, right?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes, I've had Laotian girls. It's all kinds. I don't put no label on nobody, but I know DCS is they're overwhelmed with work.
They are.
Work. So what this young lady's doing on the show tonight, thank you.
Awesome. Joyce, thank you for calling in. We appreciate you. Well, that's got to make you feel good, Amanda. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was crying. Just listen to her talk about it.
But what a commitment she's made too. I mean, it's right away I want to call up and say, how can I help you out? I mean, how can I thank you for doing that? And that's what this is all about.
Well, especially with her taking in teenagers, that's not a common thing that anyone wants to take on.
I know, it's tough. We're going to take another break, everybody. If you'd like to call in, maybe share your experience, you can do so right now. We're back with our final full segment after this.